everybody. Today I'm going to be going over the poem called Poem for My Mother by Jennifer Davis. It is in the anthology if you have it, and that's what the anthology looks like. It is on page 160 and 161 if you do have your book. If not, I am going to be putting it onto the Google Drive again for you, so you'll be able to download it or rewrite it and be able to annotate on your poem. Alright, before I jump into it, you'll notice that things look a little bit more familiar. I'm not at home today. Today I'm busy filming from inside my classroom. And a little fun fact, the last date, and I know some of you know I'm very bad with dates, but the last date I have is the 26th of February. So that makes you feel a little bit nostalgic, and hopefully you feel like you're back in class with me and we can enjoy learning again together. Alright, so Jennifer Davis, our poet, she was a very prominent activist against the anti-apartheid regime. So she went overseas and she demonstrated and she actually pushed for international recognition against against the apartheid regime. So she played a very important role in the international repercussions that happened, the things like the sanctions, forcing people to treat the workers better. Okay? If people from overseas would do business with South Africans, there were certain morals and values that needed to be upheld, and that is exactly what she demonstrated against and she pushed for. This poem itself also speaks about the anti-apartheid regime, but as most poetry, and good poetry especially, it can be used and can be applied into the world we live in today. The beauty about poetry, although your poet may have been writing about one specific life event, it can be carried across many years down the line. And we're going to see that. Alright, as usual, I'm going to read through this poem a minimum of 3 times. My first time is to have a general idea of what is happening in my poem. The second time I read it, I'm going to go through line by line and try and identify any words that maybe you don't understand, or any ideas, any concepts, any imagery that maybe could be a little bit unfamiliar for you. And the third time I'm going to go through it, I'm just going to highlight the figures of speech used and why they're used. Remember, your poet will only use words, only use certain pieces, certain things in writing that is important. And what's not used is also important, which we'll come to. Alright, so our first reading of the poem. It says, Poem for My Mother by Jennifer Davis. This isn't everything, you said on the afternoon I brought a poem to you hunched over the wash tub, with your hands the shriveled, burnt granadilla, skin of your hands covered by foam. And my words, like a ball of hard blue soap, into the tub to be grabbed and used by you to rub the clothes. A poem isn't all there is to life, you said, and your blue-ringed gaze scanning the page, once looking over my shoulder and my back at the immediate dirty water, and my words being clenched smaller and smaller. Alright, general understanding of the poem. We've got this idea of maybe a little child or a child going up to his mom. Mom's busy washing the clothes in the wash tub, in like a little basin or a bathtub even. Mom's busy washing the clothes, and the little child brings this poem to the mom and says, Mommy, look, here's a poem I wrote, have a look at it, see what you think. And the mom sort of just dismisses the kid and says she implies that it's not really worthy, it's not important. Okay, so let's go through it slowly and see line by line. I'm going to be working on the board. I know it's reversed for you, so please just on your poem, also keep in mind, where am I? What annotations do you need to be making on your poem as well? Alright, so first stanza. Remember, in poetry we don't have paragraphs, we have stanzas. So stanza 1, it says, that isn't everything you said. On the afternoon I brought a poem to you hunched over the wash tub, with your hands this shriveled, burnt granadilla, skin of your hands covered by foam. Okay. notice already that line 1, we've got a direct quote. So if your poet wanted to, she could have done inverted commas to indicate the direct speech. However, she has not done it. So just keep in mind, there's a lack of punctuation here. Mom is busy saying, no, poetry is not everything. The you here would be the mom. On the afternoon, I brought a poem to you. Hunched. Hunched means bent over. If you have a look at the poem or the picture you've got in your anthology, you can see Mom is hunched over this wash tub. Okay? So she is bent. Or she's bending over the wash tub. And a wash tub, this is whatever Mom would use in order to wash your clothes. Some people use the big barrel, obviously when you're washing it by hand, not using a washing machine. So some people use the big metal outside basins. Some people use the little plastic ones that sometimes you put the little kids in when they were going to bath outside in summer. Okay? Or it could be just a usual wash. Okay? So I'm going to just say bath, but keep in mind it could be like those basins or like the plastic big baskets that the kids would jump into, water, they'd have a bath in summer. Okay, so keep that in mind. With your hands, the shriveled. Shriveled means wrinkled. Burnt granadilla. Okay, granadilla, you know already in South Africa. We call it a granadilla. Overseas, it's often called a passion fruit. Okay, usually it's brown. And then as it gets riper, it sort of wrinkles, it dries up similar to like a grape drying up to be a raisin. Okay, so it gets all wrinkly, and when it's getting ripe, it becomes even more wrinkly, and it almost looks like it's going rotten, but it's not. Okay? Or at least not yet. The fact that your poet has used the word burned, that's very important. Remember, in poetry, your poet will have gone over the poem multiple times before publishing it. So the fact that she's included the word burnt, that tells us a couple of things. Firstly, do we cook granadillas? No. We could bake with granadilla, but you don't generally cook. It's a fruit. It's like a banana. You would not generally cook a banana, similar to how you would not generally cook a granadilla. So the fact that she said burnt granadilla, that tells us something important. Okay? Remember, while you're in class, we speak about connotations and denotations. Denotations, you're treated to remembering it. Denotation, denotation, dictionary. If I had to look up the word burnt in the dictionary, what would I likely find? Something along the lines of when something is consumed by a fire and there is very little of value left over. That would be your denotation. Denotation, dictionary, We're looking more at your connotations now though. What connotations do we have for burnt? What implied meanings do we have for burnt? There are two big things that stand out for me. First one would be that it's been injured. If you burn your hand on a stove or in a fire, it's going to be hurt, it's going to be injured. Okay? So there's your first half. I'm going to bring this over here for you. Okay? Connotation. First big one would be that it's injured. And your second one for burnt would be that it has gone black. Okay? It's burnt to a crisp. It's black. Okay, now we're going to relate these connotations back to our shriveled granadilla hand. Okay? So firstly, it's an injured hand that looks similar to a granadilla. Okay? So the hand, Mom's been washing and Mom's been busy so much so that her hands are actually injured, similar to like if she had burnt her hand on the stove cooking for dinner and all of those sort of things that Mom would have done. So her hands are injured. And the second one, black hands, It could be a representation or it could be a hint towards her race. Okay? Talking about the race of what the mom would be. Maybe she's an African woman. Okay? So let's go through that piece again. With your hands, the shriveled, burnt granadilla skin of your hands, so comparing the skin of the hands to this burnt granadilla, covered by foam. Foam means soap. Okay. Remember, mom is busy washing those clothes by hand, so mom's hands are going to be covered in soap, the foam, the bubbles of the soap. Okay. We have got figures of speech in there, but we're going to come back to them in our second reading. Alright, moving on, second stanza, line 9. And my words slid like a ball of hard blue soap into the tub to be grabbed and used by you to rub the clothes. Okay. So, and my words, obviously the words on the poem. Or in the poem, even. Okay? In the poem. Slid away like a ball. Okay? Balls, because they're round, they're not easy to grasp. So, not easy to grab or understand. So words on the page, your speaker's words on the page are like a ball. They're hard to grasp, they're hard to understand, similar to like a ball. And she continues, a ball of hard blue soap. Okay, hard blue soap is talking about a bar of soap. Bar of soap. Okay? And as many of you have known already or have experienced already, when you're trying to hold on soap, especially if you're bathing and the soap is wet and it's full of bubbles and the soap's already bubbling and frothing and foaming, then it's not very easy to hold on to that bar of soap. Similar to how it's not very easy to understand or grasp means to hold, to grasp what your speaker is trying to say in her poem. Okay? So just as difficult as it is for people to hold or understand, hold your bar of wet soap, it's just as difficult to understand your poet's writing, or at least the speaker's writing. Okay, and then that bar of soap falls into the tub. Tub's talking about the bathtub. To be grabbed, grab means to try and hold, or it can in this sentence mean to understand. And to be grabbed and used by you. I'm going to come back to connotation and denotation for these two words. Remember in class we often speak about if a word has got good implied meanings, it's happy, it's fruititious, it's constructive. If it is negative, in other words, it's unhappy, it's mean, it's demeaning, it's unfriendly. Or if a word is in the middle, it can be both. It can be positive and it can be neutral. When we look at a word, it can therefore be positive, negative. If it's both, neutral. It can be used in both sentences. Okay? So the word grabbed, if you grab something, think of like your baby brother or your baby sister or your nieces or nephews. When they grab a toy that they don't want the other little niece or nephew or brother or sister to play with, is it a happy feeling? Think about if your poet had used a different word like grasp, grasping an idea, holding, protecting. That's got a very different connotation. Holding, protecting, grasping. Those all have got positive connotations. Whereas grabbing, like a little child that grabs a toy from a friend or from a playmate, that's got negative connotations. So here we've got very negative connotations. Negative means bad idea, right? And if something's used by someone else, negative, positive, What do you think? It's negative in this sentence. It could be positive in other sentences. Okay? You want to use a dishwasher to wash the dishes. That way life's a little bit easier. Then used would be positive. But in this sentence, if someone's being used by another, do you think that's positive? Do you think that's good? Or do you think it's bad? It's bad, so it's negative. Yeah? So here, according to our connotations, we've got two bad ideas. Mom is going to use the words in that poem that this child has written. She's going to use those words according to what she needs. She's going to take the information she wants, she needs, and she's going to grab only what she thinks is important. You've got the idea here, and your poet's talking about how sometimes people will only take what they need. Think about when you're telling a friend a story. Maybe you're gossiping with a friend. And sometimes, rather than listening to your whole story, they only latch onto one little piece of your story. That's what's happening here. Mom's not looking at the whole poem. She's looking at what she wants to take out of it, rather than what it really is. Okay? That means that the whole poem as an entity, as a thing, it's not as important. Do you see that? It's not important on its own. It's only important as far as Mom can use it, can find meaning from it. As far as it is useful for Mom, she will use it. She will pay attention to it. But if it's not useful, Mom's not listening. See, I'm sure you've seen something similar before. Okay? And when she uses and when she's grabbing and using it, in line 14 it says to rub the clothes. Again, remember Mom's washing the clothes. So your poem, or the speaker's poem, what the speaker has to say is only important as far as it helps Mom to do what she needs to do. Things like washing. Okay. So again, you've got that idea of lack of self-worth. This poem, or what this speaker is trying to say, is not important to Mom. What is important to Mom is only what she can take out of it. Very negative ideas, very unhappy, bad feelings you get from that. Okay, we're going to come back to why you're getting it through figures of speech. Third stanza, line 15. A poem isn't all, again, you get Mom speaking here, so your poet could have used the inverted commas. I remind you, your punctuation, if you're starting with one inverted comma, just the one little copy, you've got to end with one. If you're using two, you've got to end with two. Whatever you start with, you end with. Okay? So poem isn't all there is to life. That could be Mom's whole quote, direct speech. Again, take note. Your poet should have used it, but she chose not to. She's not forgotten it. Remember, she's reviewed and edited, similar to like how you guys review and edit your essays. She's done that many times. She's not just written it down and said, okay, publish. She's gone over the same thing many, many times to make sure it has the correct meanings to it. Alright, so she's purposely chosen not to put in that punctuation. And there's a reason for it we're going to come back to. Okay? So poetry isn't all there is to life, you said. The you here is Mom. Mom said that. Okay? With your blue ringed gaze. Gaze means to look at something. What do you think a blue ringed look would be? Blue ringed. And I'm going to, before I answer that, I want to look at the next line, because the next line helps you to understand that first piece better. Blue ring can be talking about the blue lines or the blue bags we get under our eyes when we're very tired. But is that what our speaker is talking about? Let's look at the next line as well. With your blue ringed gaze, scanning the page, reading. What do you think Mom's got on her face? Or what do you think your subject here has got on her face? Glasses. Okay, so the blue ringed gaze is actually talking about how this person has got glasses on. And the frames of those glasses are probably blue. Okay? Scanning would be looking for information. Looking for info. Okay? So while you're reading or while you're looking for information on the page, maybe you're busy looking through a magazine or you're reading a book, she's wearing the blue glasses. One's looking over my shoulder and my back at the immediate dirty water. Things seem very ambiguous here. Do you notice that? You're not really sure who is speaking here. Is it mom with the glasses? Is it the narrator? Is it your speaker with the glasses? Who's doing what? The reason it is ambiguous is because, take note, it never once directly identifies who your pronoun is standing in the place of. Okay? We have got things like, and I'm going to use a different color for this so you can see it and identify it a lot easier. Okay? The poem isn't all there is to life. You said. Could have said mom said, but they're being ambiguous. You said, with your blue-red gaze, scanning the page, once looking over my shoulder and my back at the immediate dirty water. Do you notice that? Do you notice why it is ambiguous? When you are writing, remember, always identify your subject first. So, the poem isn't all there is to life. Mom said. Now you're not ambiguous anymore. Now we know who's saying what. With you're talking about mom. Okay? Mom is the one reading or scanning that book. One's looking over my shoulder. Mom looks up from her book and she looks over the speaker's shoulder, over this child's shoulder at the dirty water. Immediate means directly behind them. It's close by. It's not far, tucked away, disappearing. Okay? It's very close by. So mom takes that second. Again, the child comes, Mommy, 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 look at my pretty poem I made. And mom looks up from her book or from her magazine and again looks at the child and looks over the child's shoulder at the dirty washing water. Why do you think mom's done that? Take you back to the end of your second stanza. Mom has this feeling, or mom has this predisposition. A predisposition means a personal value or a personal understanding, a personal agreement with herself that this child's writing, this child's poetry, what this child has to say is only important as far as it matters to mom, as far as it can help mom. If the child has something to say that will make mom's life more easier, mom will listen. If not, not worthy. How does that relate to what we've just seen? Mom looks up from her book, doesn't even listen to what the child has to say, and looks at the dirty water, almost as if saying, how is this going to make my life easier? Okay, so again, we've got it linking back, this idea linking here. What am I doing? These two linking together, talking about how what the child has to say is not important unless it makes mom's life easier. Very bad feelings to have. Okay, let's move on. Last stanza, the smallest one of them all, and you're going to see why now. It says, line 22, and my words, your speaker's words, the my again, okay? And your speaker's words being clenched. Clenched means to be squashed. You often, when you're angry, you'll clench your fist, and the more angry you get, the harder you're squishing your fingers together. Okay? That idea of squeezing the life out of something. Okay? So squeezing. Clench means to squeeze. The speaker's words are being squeezed until they become smaller and smaller. All right, I'm going to do our third reading quickly, where we look at our figures of speech again, and we're going to see why has our speaker chosen to do certain things. Okay, I'm going to keep on blue. In fact, I'm going to use orange so you can see them very clearly. All right, so first stanza. What figures of speech can we see? That isn't everything. That isn't everything you said. On the afternoon, I brought a poem to you, hunched over the washing tub. Hunched over the wash tub. With your hands, the shriveled, burnt granadilla, skin of your hands covered by foam. What figures of speech what figure of speech can you see there? I see the same figure 3 times. Okay? This child brings a little poem, and mom is bent over the wash tub, busy washing. Do you see that there's an image forming in your head? You can imagine mom busy there washing these clothes in this tub. Okay? So here in line 3, we have got imagery. I'm just going to put an I. You can write it out in full. Okay? Line 3, we've got some imagery with mom bending over and she's busy washing these clothes. That imagery continues and it says, mom is washing the clothes with hands, the shriveled, burnt granadilla, skin of your hands covered by foam. So again, foam, those hands being covered by foam. Again, continuing that imagery. We've got a comparison here though, do you see it? They're comparing, your speaker, your narrator is comparing mom's hands to a burnt granadilla. Do you see it? We're looking at line 6 specifically there, burnt granadilla. Do you see it? What figure of speech do we call it? What figure of speech is it named when we compare 2 or more things without a like or as? It is a metaphor. Okay. So in line 6, we've got a metaphor. I'm just doing the letter, you can write it out in full. Second stanza, and my words slid like a ball. What figure of speech do you see there? You see the like? So what figure of speech do we have? A simile. Line 10, we've got a simile, and that simile is comparing the words on the page slipping away like a ball rolling away. And the ball of hard blue soap. Can you picture that bar of soap? Yes, because there is imagery. The narrator, your speaker, your poet has described that soap bar for you. And it slips into the tub. You can again picture it. You're busy washing your hands with this bar of soap, and all of a sudden the soap pops out and goes into the water. You can imagine it. So you've got imagery there. To be grabbed and used by you to rub the clothes, continuing your imagery. A poem is all there is to life, stanza 3. Mom said, with your blue-ringed gaze. What figure of speech do you see there? A blue-ringed gaze. Talking about? Is it simile? Is there a like or as? No, so it is a metaphor. Metaphor. Comparing mom wearing her glasses while reading to mom having blue circles around her eyes, or looking with blue circles. Okay? That colour there, remember we spoke you learned a little bit last year in grade 8, you learned a little bit about the psychology of colour. Okay? What feelings does blue give you? Just keep that in mind. Something for further thought. Okay? If it was a pink or a rose-coloured glasses, what does that mean? If you're looking at things through a rose-tinted lens, have you heard that before? It means that you see a very romantic side to things. Okay? The world always looks a lot prettier when you're wearing those pink sunglasses. And that's exactly what it's talking about. If it was a rose or pink coloured glasses, but because it's blue, we get very cold feelings, okay? We think of like snow and the very cold weather we're currently experiencing. So, blue ringed gaze, very cold, standoffish, don't come too close sort of ideas, okay? So again, you've got a metaphor, also talking and giving you more insight of how the manner in which mom is looking at you when looking at the narrating or poet when she's busy speaking. Once looking over my shoulder and back at the immediate dirty water, nothing really there, a little bit of imagery, nothing too serious. And my words being clenched and smaller and smaller. You've got imagery there, okay? Do words have fingers? Do words have hands? Can they rip? Can they get smaller? Figuratively? Literally? Can words literally get smaller? Not really. I mean, we can try and write words smaller, but they're still the same word. Figuratively, they become fewer. We say less. Okay. Overall, what do you think the poem's telling you now about? We've spoken about the whole surface meaning. Remember, your poetry has got this on the top meaning. When you first look at it, you get one understanding, and that was what we did in the first reading, hey? We're busy, or your speaker's busy telling mom about this poem, and mom's just standoffish. This doesn't matter to me. You understood that one. That's your surface understanding. That's your easy understanding. You need to take it deeper. Poetry is all about taking it deeper. Okay? Taking this deeper, what do you think it's telling you? What do you think the moral of the story is, of this poem is? The moral here, or your underlying meaning in this poem, is that when people, or especially when people that are ahead of a house, like a mom's usually the one in charge of looking after everyone, making sure everyone's fed, making sure everyone's done their homework sort of thing, okay, generally speaking. If mom, or if that important person in your life constantly tells you, no, what you're saying is not important, no, what you're writing is not important, it doesn't matter as far as it makes my life easier. Unless it's making my life easier, I don't want to hear it. How would that make you feel? If people had to say that sort of thing to you, or people had to act that way towards you, do you think you'd write more? Not really. You'd start to write less and less. That way they've squashed what you're trying to say. They've squashed this dream of writing. Okay? They've made you feel inadequate. Inadequate means not worthy, not important. That you need something else in order to make you important, which is not true. Okay? Now I want you to remember, so it's quite a deep poem when you think about it. Remember that I said to you, our poet was an anti-apartheid activist. Why do you think she chose to write this poem in order to combat the apartheid regime? Why do you think that? Very interesting. Let me give you a hint. Wherever you see them talking about mom, I want you to replace mom and put in the government. Okay? So let's look at the third stanza. A poem, what you have to say isn't all there is to life, the government said. The government had to say to you, what you have to say is not all that there is to life. There's more to life than just what you think and you feel. How would that make you feel? What would you think about the government that you follow, that you trust to lead us safely? Let's go to the other quote. That isn't everything, the government said. If the people in power had to speak to us the way this mom is treating her child, if our government had to treat us like that, what would happen to our people? Or more accurately, what happened to a majority of our people during the apartheid era? The minorities, the people that were segregated, the people who were abused, the people who were demeaned, made feel less than what they truly are worth. They, for a large portion, people started to feel like they were worthless. And that's where our problem came in. The good part is when people fight this sort of thing. When people say ugly things and you fight it. But when people start to believe the ugly things that others say, or the nonsense that others say, that's when you can lead people very far astray. If I can make you believe that you're worth less than what you are, that's where your big problem comes in. And that's what I want you to be aware of. That's what our poet is talking about. Relate that to what we're currently going through with the COVID-19. If our government tells us we're less important, what does that mean? They're telling you that you don't need to be in classes right now for your own safety. And I do agree with them. Don't misunderstand me. I agree that it's not safe to be in classes right now. You know our class sizes, you know the dynamics, you know the space, you know the resources that are just not available. But what are they implying? Are they squashing voices that should be heard? Think about how the hairdressers are busy fighting to reopen. Those squashing voices, do those voices not need to be heard? Keep that in mind. With your work, I'm also going to, online, if you don't have your anthology book, I am also going to be posting up your questions. I'm going to quickly run through them. I know I'm running out of time. Okay. So, empathize with both parties. Explore how the speaker and the mother experience different realities and how this creates the moment. Number 1, the first line of the poem is the speaker repeating the words of her mother. Again, we spoke about direct speech. Should have had quotation marks, but didn't, because less punctuation means faster your speaker can read it. So, faster pace. A, explain how this is a powerful opening line. B, how does this show that the incident is still very real to the speaker? She's literally reliving that memory. C, comment on how this line sums up the mother's attitude. And D, quote another example from the poem where the speaker repeats the words of the mother. Giving you good hints for that one. Number 2, comment on the following words. Explain how they were emotive. Emotive brings about emotions. And how they highlight the mother's daily reality of hard work. So A, hunched, B, hard, C, grabbed, D, used, E, rubbed. Take into consideration your connotations there. Similar to what we did here. Okay? What are those implied meanings? What do they tell you? Is it positive, negative, or neutral? Speak about it when you're answering. C, explore the following images. Name the figure of speech and discuss the effectiveness of the image in light of the poem. So A, the shriveled, burnt granadilla skin of your hands, we spoke about. B, my words slid like a ball. That was B. C, of hard blue soap. D, your blue ringed gaze. And last one, number 4, explain how the structure of the last stanza supports what is being said. Okay, so think about how many words are in each line in the last stanza compared to in your first stanza, or second, or third. Keep that in mind. How many words are used per line? How many lines are used per stanza? What is the rhyme scheme you could maybe even look at? Alright, remember guys, please subscribe to this channel if you need to, so that you can get updates for whenever I do post a video for you. And then keep safe. I love you all. Let's hopefully see you back in school soon.